Now that we've created the form and the controls that we need, I'd like to now look at the code that we need to associate to this form. So I'm going back to sheet 1. What I'd like to do is record a macro, but before I do so, I want to ensure that I have got my relative referencing turned on. If you go to your Developers tab and you look up here in the Code group, you'll see Use Relative References. This button is currently not on because it doesn't have any highlighting on it. When I click it now, it's got a highlighting on it, so it's turned on. With my Use Relative References turned on, I want to record a macro and name that macro Data Entry. And OK. I then want to record going to the Start cell. So I'll hit the drop down on my name box and choose Start Cell, which basically takes me to A1. So you didn't have to name the cell, it just makes it easier. I then want to go to the bottom of my list, so I'll press Control down arrow, and that's why I wanted relative references on, so it relatively records me going down. Having hit the bottom of my list, I then want to go down one more cell, so I record going down one more cell. I'll then type the value date and press the right arrow, type person and press the right arrow, and then type title, right arrow, region, right arrow, and actual, right arrow. I then want to return to the Start cell, so I'll hit the drop down and choose Start cell, and that's basically all I want to record, so I'll stop recording. So I've made my macro called Data Entry, and we'll come back to that shortly. But for now, let's go back to the Visual Basic Editor. Oh, before we do that, we should probably test it works. Let's go to Macros, let's go to Data Entry, and let's run it. And it's perfect. Let's go to Macros, let's go to Data Entry, and run it. So it's perfectly going to the foot of the list, down one more cell, and then adding data across that row. So we could actually get rid of this data now, so I'll select these 3 rows and go Control minus and get rid of that. So I know my macro is working, and I should have got you to test it to make sure it is working. But now that we have created our macro, we know it's working, we'll put that aside and we'll go back to our Visual Basic Editor. What I now want to do is add some code to the OK buttons and to the cancel buttons. And the code I want to add to the OK and the cancel buttons is simply to close the form. To add code to the OK button, double click it. When I double click it, I'm taken into a private sub-procedure which is associated with a button called CMD OK. So when the command button OK is clicked, this is the code that will run. And I simply want it to unload the form called FRM Sales. And I'll take a copy of that statement and I'll go back to my form FRM Sales by double clicking it in my Project Explorer. I'll then double click the cancel button and I'll paste that statement against that particular button also. So if the cancel or the OK button is clicked, the form called FRM Sales will be closed. So let's test it. I'll go and double click FRM Sales, I'll press F5 to view the form, and when I click the OK button, it should close it. I'll press F5, and when I click the cancel button, it should close it. So now I'll click Save. That bit's done. The next thing I'd like to do is assign a source to the combo boxes. What I mean by this is if I press F5 to view the form and I click the drop down on Person, there's nothing showing there. And I hit the drop down on Region, there's nothing showing there. So I'll cancel. What we want to do is click on Person and go to the Properties window, and you need to find the property Row Source, which is in the R's. When I click on Row Source, I can then say what range I've created that is the source for that. I created that range name called People. In fact, let me show you. If I go to the Excel file and go to Sheet 2 and go and highlight this range, I called it People. That is the source of the combo box. And this is the source, Regions, for the Region combo box. So let's go back to the Visual Basic Editor. Let's click on Person. Let's go to Row Source. And let's put People. And that's the source of that combo box. Let's go to Region. Let's go to Row Source. And let's put Regions. So make sure you spell it exactly correctly. Now if I go to press F5 and view my form and hit my drop down, there's my list of people and there's my list of regions. So the row source property is extremely important for combo boxes. And I'll save. I now want to set up some variables. So what I'd like to do is go to the Visual Basic Editor and I'd like to right click a blank part of the form and I'd like to view code. I'm going to press Control Home to get to the very top of the Visual Basic Editor. I'd like to add the statement option explicit and declare a variable dim fm title as a string. And this will become clearer as we go along. For now, we'll just keep moving forward. In the Project Explorer, I'd like to double click the user form and I'd like to double click the option owner. And in here, I now have a sub-procedure which is associated to the option owner and if it was clicked. If the option owner is clicked, I would like to set the variable fm title to equal the text owner. So I put that in double quotes. I'm then going to take a copy of that statement, double click my FRM Sales in my Project Explorer, double click rep, paste that statement and change it to rep. I'll then double click the FRM Sales, double click admin, paste and change it to admin. So the variable fm title, which is declared up here in the general declaration section, is expecting to hold a string, which is text. And if one of those option buttons is clicked, if the first option button is clicked, fm title will be owner. If the second option button is clicked, fm title will be rep. And if the third option button is clicked, fm title will be admin. And I'd like to save. Now what I'd like to do is actually edit my code a little bit. I'm going to go back to the modules folder and double click module 1 and here's my code here which we recorded earlier. I'm actually going to make a change here. Let's look at this code a little bit first. This particular code, because I turned on record relative references, makes relative references to my movements. So it first of all goes to the start cell, X cell down is control down arrow, it offsets itself one row and that means it comes down one, and it types the word date. It then goes across one column and types person, across one column types title, across one column types region, across one column types actual, then it goes across one column and returns to the start cell. I'm going to remove any excess comments here. I'm actually going to add a statement in here immediately after Excel down. And the statement I want to add in there is that it actually will, let me just double check this, that it will actually show the sales form. So the form FRM sales is to show. So this macro will go to the start cell, which is A1. It'll go control down arrow and then it will show the particular form. And in fact, I think I might add it under that statement. So it goes control down arrow, then it goes down one more cell and then it shows the form sales. Alright, now I'm happy. Let's cut this out. I want this all cut out of here because that is basically the macro. Go to the start cell, go control down arrow, go down one more row and bring up the form sales. Now let's double click the form sales and let's double click the OK button. And I want to paste that code above the statement unload FRM sales. Okay, so when they click the OK button, I then want them to input the data into the various cells, return to the start cell and close the form. But I don't want them to put date into that cell. And let's actually click on this and I'm going to go Control H and I'm going to find and replace that value there with value. I think it makes more sense. So I'm going to replace all in the current procedure, replace all. and 5 replacements made, and OK. I think it makes easier reading. The active cell's value will be date. No, take that out. The active cell's value will be the text field, the text box, txt date. Whatever date they put in the text box txt date is what I want put into that cell. Then it goes across one column and puts the text person. No. When it goes across one column, I want it to put the combo box person value. Go across one column, put title. No. Put FM title, which will be whichever option they chose, whether it be owner, admin, or rep. Region, no, that should be the combo box region's value. And actual, I want it to store whatever's in the text box, txt actual. Then I want it to go back to the start cell. So this statement here is actually unnecessary. And unload the form. So let's go back to the module. So the module will go to the A1, go control down arrow, and then go down one more row and show the form. The form will then capture this information. The OK button will then store the txt date, the text field date, the combo box person, the option group title, the combo box region, the actual value, and then return to the start cell and unload the form. Let's test it. Now I'm going to go back to sheet 1. I'm actually going to make a button, so I'm going to insert shapes and choose the bevel shape in the first of the third row under basic shapes, rectangle beveled, and I'm going to drag and make a button. And I'll just type data entry. Click to do data entry and control E as center. And I'll size it. I'll then right click the button, assign a macro, and assign the data entry macro to the button, and OK. So now when I click the button, it runs the data entry macro, which shows the form sales, which allows me to enter a date. So I'll go the 1st of the 3rd, 17. I'll choose a person, Egan. I'll choose a region, Auckland, and I'll choose a value of say 2000, and I'll make it a rep. When I click OK, that'll then go to the start cell, control down arrow, down one more, and it'll put the txt date, the CBO person, the frame title, which is rep. It'll put the CBO region and the txt actual values, and OK. And there it is there. So it's working, but it needs some tweaking. For example, the date doesn't look like a date, and in fact the smart tag's actually telling me this cell contains a date string, which is not really what I want. Also, this is being interpreted as text as well. This really should be currency, and this really should be a date. So I'm going to delete this line, Control minus. I'm going to go back to my Visual Basic Editor. I'm going to double click my OK button, and I'm going to make a tweak in here. The date, txt date, I want to convert that to a date and put it in brackets. So it literally will convert that text field date into a date. And I also want to convert the actual value, where are we here, convert to currency, so that it truly is represented as a number and most specifically as currency. And now let's try that. So go to click to do data entry. The date, 23rd, oh no, 1st of the 3rd, 17. Person, let's choose Egan again, let's choose Auckland again, and let's put 2000 again. And rep. When I click OK, we have got a proper date, Egan, rep, Auckland. This here is not, the column's not wide enough, so I'll widen the column. This is showing us currency. So let's bring all the pre-existing data into shape by making that currency as well. And then we've got a consistency going on. And let's make sure it is actually currency, not accounting. So let's try it again. Click to do data entry. Let's put the 2nd of the 3rd, 17. Let's choose the second person, which is Monroe. Choose Christchurch. Let's choose 1500. Let's make it an admin and OK. Now I'm happy. That looks really good. So we've created a user form, we've created a macro, and then we've worked with the code to assign the code to various objects to get this to work. There's a lot of effort that goes into these user forms. That's quite a simple one. So whenever I see a user form, I have a lot of respect for the amount of effort that somebody's gone to put that together.